Hi, I'm Doug Keck, and this is an EWTN Bookmark Brief. Just had the great pleasure of speaking with Father Brian Thomas Becket Mullady, OP, about his latest book, Grace Explained, How to Receive and Retain God's Most Potent Gift, available through our EWTN Religious Catalog, published proudly by EWTN, EWTNRC.com, for all things Catholic. And this is a very Catholic book, Father. Tell us, why do we need Grace Explained?
We need Grace Explained because a lot of people don't have any idea what it is today. And it is the central aspect of our religion, one of the central doctrines of our religion. And there's a lot of mistaken ideas about grace. I'm sure you're aware that a lot of the difficulties of the Protestant Reformation, although I doubt that many Protestants, they have a clue what they were talking about back then, but were caused by difficulties of what the nature of grace actually is. And Catholicism believes grace is a true change in you. Mm-hmm. It's not just an overlooking of sinfulness.
Yeah, kind of as you talk about the Luther idea with the snow covering over, kind of.
We still remain totally depraved.
You're guilty, but the judge lets you off, basically.
The judge lets you off, right.
Okay. Now, you also, in the book, I thought was interesting, and that's why I wanted to mention, because Grace Explained sounds, it's highly theological. I don't know, it may be too complicated for me. But you deal with a lot of down-to-earth issues like justification and things like that. You also talk about, I thought this was some interesting information about the site of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. You say the early Christians not only maintained that this was the site of crucifixion, but also was the site of Eden. In fact, they believed that the cross was where actually the tree of disobedience was.
Right. That's why Constantine, when he built the first basilica, put a garden in it, and they called it Eden. And it was their way of explaining things, really. So when the Sacred Heart was pierced, they believed that the blood and water flowed down the cross. And there are holes in the rock, and there's an underground stream underneath. Even today, I've been there, I've heard it, you know. And they believe the blood dripped and water dripped through the holes in the rock and touched the waters of the world, and then gave them, because it's Eden, it's like the source of all the waters of the world. And give them the power to heal in baptism.
Right. Now, we talk about grace. A lot of people today hear about God's mercy. And so, I mean, you know, what's the difference between God's mercy and grace, and why do I, if I can rely on God's mercy, why do I need this grace stuff in between from the sacraments?
Well, mercy actually is God's grace.
I see, okay.
Because misericordia is the same as Hesed in the Old Testament. For his great love is without end, and that's God's gracious love. Remember, one of the things I say in the book, which is that God's love and man's love are similar in the sense that they both approve of good. But in man's love, we have to find the good to approve it. We don't create it by loving it. Whereas God's love creates good. So we have at least 3 levels on which we're loved by God. The first is our existence, where we're made like to him because he's being his being. The second is our intelligence, because he's a spirit with an intellect and will. And the third is that we're invited to be friends with him, to share a relationship. And since he's eternal, we have to be elevated to eternity to do that.
Now, you talk about, let me just, before we go, you talk about friends. Sometimes people say, well, God is my friend. Is there a difference between being a friend and a disciple?
A difference between a friend and a disciple. I would say when it comes to grace, that's no. But what they mean by God being a friend is he and I are okay with each other no matter what we do. No, that's not what a friend is. Remember, friendship as is love can be true and can be false. So a true friend has to be someone who reflects the truth.
Like the buddy Christ, as they
I had a Franciscan who used to tease each other all the time, and he'd say, remember, Father Brian, God is love. And I'd say, yes, and God is truth, because you can love falsely.
Absolutely. Well, they spell it L-U-V. Of course, Grace Explained, How to Receive and Retain God's Most Potent Gift. Father Brian Thomas Becket Mullady, OP. Of course, this book is available through the EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com, proudly published by EWTN. Look for the entire interview coming soon on the network and right away on demand. So check out our website as well. And this has been a Bookmark Brief. Thanks for stopping by. Oops.